This video is dedicated to fellow sim YouTuber Random Callsign, who's going to become Secret Squirrel for Fnatic. Oh damn, I was not supposed to tell them that, right? Congrats on the new job, mate. Boa sorte. Greetings, Romy. You're watching WromWrom, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and a regular news roundup or weekly sim racing news. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. Once again, a full week. Be it an Automobilista 2 update, the release of an Ask Me Anything with Aris, or AC Evo's safety rating, sims are getting hotter than the weather outside. Not to mention the release of the mother of all direct drive wheels. These and more in today's news. Chock full as always, only for you, as always. Aris, yeah, this guy had a lengthy live stream as Ask Me Anything and answered viewer questions while driving a Mazda MX-5 around Lime Rock Park, and there is a lot to unpack. Let us run through everything that came out of it. Let us start with the car updates. The MX-5 itself received a significant rework. The old car was apparently a mix of ND1 and ND2 specs, so the team went back and built a proper ND1 version with around 170 horsepower. They also reworked the tire physics model and even added the small amount of rear lift the real car produces. Bump stops are now modeled because the actual Miata rides on them, and you can see and adjust this in the setup screen. The ND2 variant is being considered for release later, potentially to showcase the mod system. Next car classes receiving handling updates are GT4s, then GT3s, new vintage cars and reworked Australian V8 supercars. Vintage cars should drive noticeably sideways, especially the older ones. Now the physics and tire model. The long-term physics goal was described as absolute realism. The word absolute is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Realistically, this is an iterative process where the team goes back through each car class, refines models with more data and builds on each improvement. Basically what every other sim has done, even if Automobilista 2 stands out in that department. Cars in PMR are meant to have the same character as their real counterparts and feel alive, though both character and alive are subjective terms that cannot really be measured. The LMDH tire model uses the same core physics engine as other classes with different parameter values to simulate the stiffer, narrower slip angle tires. Future tire improvements include grading, blistering, flat spots, gravel pickup and rubber pickup. None of these have an ETA. If you cannot feel surface or grip changes through your wheel, Aris suggests checking your configuration or testing whether your gain is set so high that the signal clips and flattens everything to a maximum output. Track surface dynamics like rubber buildup, marbles and rain with fluid dynamics are in the works with no timeline. On the topic of gamepad and accessibility, the team will not compromise physics fidelity for gamepad users and instead plans to deliver good gamepad control so that everyone experiences the full car behavior. Then there is the scope of the sim. Aris opined the scope could eventually extend beyond cars, including potentially two-wheel vehicles. Road cars, on the other hand, are not the focus for base sim content or DLC, though they could appear through mods. Rallycross and dirt tracks are, sadly, not planned because the engine lacks terrain technology and the team has too many existing priorities. Let us talk track limits and penalties. Track limits are currently set at the white line across all classes and tracks. Aris personally disagrees with this for GT racing, preferring the curb as the limit since real GT racing is quite lenient. He recognizes the white line provides consistency, so his priority is keeping it for now, but softening the penalty system. Moving on to online and multiplayer features, collision behavior is the #1 development priority right now. Join in progress is coming soon but will not be rushed. Dedicated servers, forced cockpit view, forced setups, custom balance of power and spectator slots are all considered necessary but once again have no timeline. The team will be releasing smaller stable updates rather than large risky ones. Mandatory pit stops, weather changes and potentially multi-class racing are planned for online, but the online experience needs to be stabilized first. Driver swaps are something Aris personally wants, but join in progress, spectator mode and reconnection capability will land first. Player labels above cars and connection quality indicators for opponents are planned. A relative leaderboard is already available on the digital dashboard. Adding NPCs to online lobbies will be possible in the future, but currently complicated by network variability. For offline racing, NPC improvements are ongoing with issues around consistency and qualifying lap times. Drivers are encouraged to save replays and report specific incidents. Factory driver events and leaderboards are due for rotation updates. Career mode will receive more content. On the platform side, console performance trails PC because of lower hardware resources, fixed frame rate requirements, and the physics engine's computational demands, but the team will not reduce physics calculation frequency on console. All car updates ship simultaneously across platforms with crossplay enabled, which is quite impressive if you ask me, as console content goes through extensive QA, so the team needs to accommodate their way of working around that. Replays are coming to consoles soon. Finally, content and modding. A PMR test center track is coming soon, purpose-built for modding and testing with multiple layouts, long straights and various surface types. Modding documentation is in final drafts with no confirmed release date. The GT Icons pack releases June 23rd as the second season pass delivery, with all content due by year's end. Lots of improvements in motion, plenty of bugs to squash, and a somewhat vaguely timed roadmap ahead for Project Motor Racing. Simocube has officially launched their new flagship wheelbase, the Simocube 3 Ultimate. Orders opened on June 16th. It's their most expensive direct drive wheelbase yet, costing €2,679 before tax. That puts the final price somewhere between €3,360 and €3,460 once you add VAT, depending on where you live. Under the hood, they switched to a custom spoke type motor usually found in high performance electric cars. They claim this setup delivers up to 35 Nm of torque while running cooler and quieter than previous models. Each unit gets its own digital twin calibration, meaning the software learns the specific imperfections of your exact motor to smooth out the force feedback. Connection-wise, it uses the light bridge we talked about when covering the Sim Racing Expo 25. See the link up there. This is a contactless system that sends data through infrared and power through inductions, so there are no cables or slip rings to wear out inside the quick release. The whole ecosystem plugs into the central link hub that also handles telemetry for things like ABS and road texture simulation. The link hub is also supposed to protect your setup from USB disconnects, power surges, and electromagnetic interference. Truth to be told, while I haven't had any of those using the link hub, I didn't before either, so I cannot tell you if it does. They call it the pinnacle of their line and say it's built for the final 1% of drivers. Rhetorical numbers to add to the flair and made it sound exclusive. On the other hand, this sits above the Sport and Pro models of the Simocube 3 lineup, so it is the flagship of the family. They also promise the system degrades nothing over time, which is a pretty bold absolute claim for any mechanical drive. It comes with a 5-year warranty and is made in the EU like the rest of their products. It's a serious piece of hardware for serious fans, even if the hype language tries a little too hard to be profound. For now, availability runs through simocube.com and authorized resellers across global markets. Simocube has entry pages for the EU, UK and US. See the links in the description of this video. And yes, it can deliver 35 Nm of torque, but you'd be bonkers to crank it that high. The more important thing about that number is that even with reduced torque, it will have the bandwidth to be very detailed in its feedback. At that price, it better be. Nakon published a video about their hard-on software last week where you can also see some endurance motorsport series. It's very light on actual information, but if you want to take a look at their work in progress, the link is in the description. The segment starts after about 12 minutes and 27 seconds. Le Mans Ultimate had a tiny hotfix fixing engineer mode changes, swapping back to the value set before the pit stop after driver swapping to a teammate. Assetto Corsa Rally's team confirmed on Discord that Rally Greece is coming to the sim in update 0.5 of the early access program. SCS Software just pushed the 1.60 open beta for Euro Truck Simulator 2 and American Truck Simulator with some changes to what we told you in our latest news about them. See the link up there. Let's sort out what got left on the cutting room floor. First off, the radio feature. The initial reports claimed that mod makers could immediately build custom stations. The release notes mention mod support for future updates, but stay silent on current custom station creation capabilities. American Truck Simulator fans got shortchanged in the news cycle regarding free content. The official announcement highlights new Kenworth Tour America liveries for the W900 and T680 as a free celebration of the US bicentennial via the Freedom 250 initiative. To the surprise of nobody with knowledge of how the EU works, the EU Commission has no intent to pass any laws to support the Stop Killing Games initiative. Seeing as the Commission's president Ursula von der Leyen has been mired in corruption accusations since her time in German politics, and even nowadays, it would be no surprise if there were some incentives by big software companies dropped her way or any other way to convince the Commission. But what do I know? I'm just a lowly so-called influencer. But not all is lost. The European Parliament can, if and when it wants, be a powerful force against the Commission, and there's noises of members of the Parliament wanting to amend the Digital Fairness Act to add the wishes of over 1 million EU citizens who made the initiative such a clamoring success. Rennsport have announced a delay to their standard edition price drop. The promised 50% discount, originally set for June 19th, is now pushed to June 25th due to technical storefront issues. The team was refreshingly blunt, admitting this is simply a delay and advising players to wait so they do not overpay. Meanwhile, sales of the deluxe edition are paused entirely. The developers are currently integrating new DLCs into the bundle and do not want to sell an outdated or incomplete package to new buyers. They prefer to hold off until the full content is ready rather than offering a discount on something missing key parts. Once the updates are finished, the revised deluxe edition will return in time for the PlayStation and Xbox summer sales, running from late July to late August. So if you want the base sim, wait until June 25th. If you want the deluxe perks, plan to buy during the summer sales later this year. iRacing has dropped its first patch for the 2026 Season 3, and there are plenty of fixes to keep things running smooth. The big headline is that the NPC drivers have officially finished their bootcamp at the new naval base Coronado. They are now fully trained and ready to race on this track, which is a relief. The update also notes that these bots have sharpened their skills specifically with the Euro NASCAR V8 GP class. On the technical side, a few quirky glitches got sorted out. There was a spooky issue where ghost cars and reference lap markers were completely invisible. That is now fixed. If you use an H-pattern shifter, you can finally assign the same buttons for both incremental and absolute shifting without the sim throwing a fit. The installer will also stop failing to prompt for the necessary Microsoft VC Red distributable packages, which were causing crashes for some users. The user interface saw several tweaks too. VR users get better positioning logic and a fix for the focus driver display not loading correctly. keybinds for multiple controllers now show up as distinct actions instead of getting confused, and legacy car profiles finally import correctly alongside global defaults. The relative widget is less cluttered and tire indicators reset properly when you leave a session. Telemetry data can now optionally log every single car in a session via a new switch in the app configuration file. The GT3 class received more sensible default traction control settings, while the Formula V pit crew got a fashion upgrade so their tents finally match the driver's car colors, solving a minor visual inconsistency. Specific track changes were also included. Magny-Cours has real 3D fencing replacing the old flat graphics, and Algarve's name translation is corrected. Charlotte Dirt Road added a track map, and Oran Park updated its garage visuals. The Coronado circuit itself got a rotated map for better orientation, removed overlapping crowds and updated brake markers and ads. The spotter system got a boost with higher priority damage calls and a text fallbacks for missing packs, plus Tong Li's Mandarin voice pack received an update. Assetto Corsa Evo has rolled out a new safety rating system for its daily racing portal. It is called Evo SR, and it's similar but not the same to the one ACC has. The idea is straightforward. Your rating grows when you race close to other cars without hitting them. Driving alone does almost nothing for your score. 3 rules cover the basics. Race close and clean, your safety rating rises. Stay isolated, your safety rating barely moves. Race close and make contact, your safety rating drops. When contact happens, the system analyzes impact data to assign responsibility. Aggressive drivers get penalized, innocent drivers are protected, though the fine print says only wherever possible, which quietly admits the system cannot guarantee perfect fault attribution every time. Penalties scale with severity. A light brush at a corner exit is weighed lightly against otherwise clean driving. Heavy collisions carry serious consequences. Wall contacts do not affect your rating. Slipstream taps while running nose to tail also fall below the detection threshold. Pragmatic. 5 tiers structure the scale. Rookie covers 0 to 19, then Class D through C and B up to Class A at 80 to 100. No per session gain caps have been disclosed. How steep the climb to the top really is remains unclear. Automobilista 2 drop a hotfix with its version 16981. As it's always the case with Reza, hotfix means a lot of work was done in a very short amount of time. The biggest news for buyers is that the free trial period for the latest DLC tracks has officially ended. This means you can no longer test drive the Hungaroring, the historical track PT4 layouts or Monza 2005 unless you actually own those packs. On the technical side, several stability issues have been squashed. A crash to desktop bug that triggered when resetting session defaults without a preset is gone, as is a similar crash when selecting the FV10 Gen 3 class on ovals. The update also stops the sim from incorrectly disqualifying drivers on the first lap if they get a drive-through penalty for speeding during rolling starts. Setup hosting has been fixed too, ensuring that limited setup option loads correctly when creating lobbies via the client. Visual glitches received a heavy dose of attention. Tire wear graphics now render properly even when flat spots are present, and motion blur was corrected so it doesn't affect the tires. Several issues with parallax occlusion were resolved, including tire edges drawing over bodywork at odd angles, shadow banding on treads, and rendering artifacts for triple screen setups. The shiny coating on modern Pirelli tires finally wears off after the initial run instead of staying permanent. The UI and HUD got cleaned up with fixes for incorrect speed limits in the pit timer, missing localized text for various settings like parallax quality and audio options, and redundant traction control sliders removed for the Renault R28. Physics adjustments include minor tweaks to tire friction to improve smoke generation and soft tread changes across multiple formula classes. NPC behavior saw some smart updates. Bots now maintain slightly more distance before attempting to pass or avoid collisions, giving the trailing car more room to maneuver. Draft effects were fine-tuned and aggression settings were adjusted to stop NPC cars from driving off-track when going for hard passes. Specific improvements were made to NPC braking at chicanes and cornering around T8 and the Hungaroring. Track fixes include resolving floating rescue vehicles at Imola 2005, fixing light fixture details in Barcelona, and adjusting object levels of detail at Jerez and Indianapolis. The Lamborghini Revuelto had its front left tire mapping corrected, while Formula car animations and steering wheel models received updates for better accuracy. We offer accurate updates most every week and lots of reviews to further your joy of sim racing. Like and subscribe to not miss any of them, and let us and the YouTube algorithm know this was worth your time.